Hello, I'm Lisa Bien, and welcome to Bouncing Back. Sexual violence can have a psychological, emotional, and physical effects on a survivor. These effects aren't always easy to deal with, but Hello, I'm Lisa Bien, and welcome to Bouncing Back. Sexual violence can have psychological, emotional, and physical effects on a survivor. These effects aren't always easy to deal with, but with the right help and support, they can be managed. Recovering from sexual assault or abuse is a process, and that process looks different for everyone, and it may take weeks, months, or years. There's really no timetable for healing. Today, we will discuss sexual assault and meet someone who has not only bounced back from it, but is an advocate for others who are dealing with sexual assault. Let's get started. Hello, I'm Lisa Bien, and welcome to Bouncing Back.
God makes a way.
Be honest and communicate.
Be your authentic self.
That's so critical. Thanks for joining us on this edition of Bouncing Back. Let's welcome our guest. There was once a time in life when Christa Hayburn let fear take hold of her. She encountered some terrible things within a very short period of time, including being sexually assaulted at work and watching her dad go through cancer. Though she had a supportive husband and wonderful children and a career, she could not get out of bed each day. She was a hermit, drowning in self-doubt, and for many years, Christa Hayburn has been on a journey of faith, self-love, and empowerment. Christa is a women's leadership coach, speaker, author, advocate, and founder of Empower Her Voice movement. The Empower Her Voice movement started as a community of women who found healing and strength through the art of the story sharing, but has evolved today. Empower Her Voice teaches women how to confidently and authentically share their stories of personal or professional struggles, either on the big stage or in the privacy of their own home. Christa is a proud resident and lives here in Philadelphia with her husband, Dave, and 3 amazing children, Christopher, Nicholas, and Abigail. Christa, I am so excited to have you on the show today because this show is all about sharing stories. And I often say it's about bouncing back and recovering, overcoming adversity in our life. But sometimes I think I make it seem like, well, you have one thing in your life and you bounce back from it and all is good. But in fact, that's not the case at all.
No.
Life is full of lots of adversity, which your story definitely is one. And I love how you have changed your story. So if you don't mind,
Yes.
let's start from the
Get
very
started.
beginning.
Thank you so much for having me, first of all.
Oh.
I appreciate it.
I'm thrilled because I think the more people that we share stories with, because we all have one, or many, as in your case, you have a lot of different.
I do.
You do.
It's
so
like a
let's.
textbook.
No, I don't know if I don't know if I call it a textbook, but I
Okay.
think let's start with your childhood.
Yes.
You had your adversity really started when you were young. How young were you?
I think my earliest memory as a child might be the age of 3, 5, in that area between 3 and 5.
Okay.
And dealing with a father who was a heroin addict as well as an alcoholic, and a mother who was just kind of trying to survive herself.
Keep it all together for the
Exactly,
kids.
yes.
So you were telling me about a time that you remember going out actually and watching your dad go out and get his next fix.
Yeah.
But
There were times when I remember my earliest memory was like he would take me to a bar down in Kensington and like give me quarters and I would go and play, and I kind of like almost like it was like my playground. And that was where I hung out with my dad. Not at a playground.
right. So most kids are going to playgrounds and most kids are going, "Wee, Dad, push me on the swing."
Yeah.
And then here
He's giving me
your dad's going, here's
some
Christy,
quarters.
Here's some quarters, go and play some games.
Yes.
And you did you know what he was doing?
No.
You had no idea. So you
Not
just
at
thought
that
this
point.
was cool. I'm hanging out with Dad.
Exactly. I was hanging out with Dad, and I had to because Mom was at work. And yeah, there were, from the time I was little until the time I was able to kind of say to him, no, I'm not driving with you anymore, we would go down into North Philadelphia, where he would go into these houses and literally leave me in the car alone.
Wow.
And I would lock the door, and I would want to like find stuff in the car to be able to kind of hide myself because I was afraid.
Right.
And I couldn't even tell you like the time. There was, because the car was off, so there was no time or anything like that. And I would just be praying, please, 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 just come and take me home. At that point, I didn't know what he was doing. I thought he was just going there to meet a friend because that's what he told me.
Wow. And so you're this young, impressionable child.
Yeah.
And he's just going to meet a friend, and you don't really have any idea of really what he's doing. And then, so you go hang out with Dad to this playground where he gives you quarters, and then you come home, and he's not exactly nice to Mom.
No, unfortunately, he was not. The addiction took him to the point where they would fight a lot, obviously, because he was either taking money from her, not giving her money to feed me, and it would end up in a domestic altercation where he would beat her. I saw him break her jaw, punch walls, windows, you name it. I saw it all.
I'm trying to process what that has to be like, because it's, you know, when you hear stories, you think, oh, that's only in a movie.
Right.
But it's not.
It's not.
It's like in your life.
Yeah.
Okay. So I really am I'm thrilled that you're here to share this, because I think that there's a lot of people that go through some really horrific times, really tough stories, and it's great that you have the bandwidth to share this.
Yeah.
So your dad is your dad's not taking you to the playground.
No.
He's not exactly being really great to your mom. He's abusing your mom. And how old were you when you said, this is not the life I want. No way, I'm not doing this?
Probably as early as 5 years old.
So at 5?
At 5, I made that decision that this was not the life that I wanted to have for myself as a future. Yes.
At 5. I don't remember what I was doing when I was 5. Okay, I know, I'm old. But I don't remember like 5. That's amazing to me that at 5 you knew this is not the life I want.
No.
So, and you have a brother. Is it just you and your brother?
It's just me and my brother.
Okay, older or younger?
He's younger. He's 8 years younger than me.
Okay, so you have a brother who's 8 years younger than you, and he didn't make that same decision.
He did not make the same decision.
So I often think, which is interesting, when I share these stories, and I love asking my guests this question, is how do you have the bandwidth to make these decisions at 5? And then how do you stay on point with that decision? You made a decision that at 5, you didn't want to do this. And then what? You stayed on point and you decided that, how are you going to get out of this situation?
Exactly. It was just like trying to create a map. And even though I would make mistakes, learn from those mistakes. Because I wasn't giving the platform for childhood where parents, lay that map out for you to teach you the right and the wrongs, right? So what I had to do was kind of make my own mistakes, decide that I wasn't going to make them, and then choose a different path and a different option for myself.
Yeah, but think about it. You're pretty amazing, because I don't know if you're giving yourself enough credit.
Probably not.
You're not giving yourself enough credit, because you're saying, I knew that there was a path I wanted to go down. I made bad, I don't say bad choices, I made some choices that maybe weren't the right choices for me. And then so you went, aren't we really just describing life?
I think so,
Isn't that just what life is? We're kind of dealt the hand that we're dealt.
Exactly.
And then we have to figure out, who do we want to become?
Right.
Right? Because we all get to create our own story. We get to change our life. So you made a decision, and then you got to the point of, you moved out. What did you go to college?
So I ended up moving out. No, because I had to work. I started working very early.
How early?
12. 12, and then I went and I got 3 jobs, decided I was moving out, I was done.
But you weren't working those 3 jobs. Like, I tell people I got a job at 12 because I was babysitting and I wanted some spending money.
Right.
You were working
I
at
was
12 because you wanted to save that money, make an impact, and get out.
And get out. Yeah.
So
Because
you're
that's what I
working
had
3
to
jobs.
do. 3 jobs.
Okay.
Getting out. Going to school part-time in the meantime. And that's what I did. I mean, in the meantime, though, granted, when at 19, my dad did get sober.
Oh, yay.
Yes.
That's awesome.
It is
Great.
awesome. Yes. So, yeah, I just continue to go through the motions of life. Each thing took me to another destiny. Going into working part-time, and then I got pregnant at 21, having my son, and then again having to figure out what I wanted to do because now I have this little person I'm responsible for.
No, wait, you didn't tell me this. This is like everyone always waits. Everyone always waits to get on my show to tell me something that I didn't know. Like, it's like they dropped this, oh, by the way. So now you're saving money, got a job, had your son. And where are you with your education at this point? Because you went to school, right?
I did, off and on.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of how life plays.
I love this story because it is really what the message is all about. About this show is about overcoming adversity. It doesn't mean just one big event in our life. It means overcoming adversity means every day and having the bandwidth to bounce back. And you're like the poster child, right? You're the poster child for bouncing back and and coming for, doing the next step. So, okay, you have your son.
So I have my son. And then me and his father decided that we were going to kind of work things out because it was, not planned. And he decided to go back to school, so I went to work. I then applied to become a police officer and went through all of that. Went into the police academy, became a police officer, and that was kind of where my career was heading.
But you made a very big decision. It was on point as to why you became a police officer. Because I remember, if you can, let me just indulge you for a second. There was a time when I told my parents I wanted to be a police officer, and I went here at Temple, and I was going to be a criminal justice major, and I was going to be a police officer, and they looked at me like, yeah, no. But anyway, we're going to take a break right now. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about why you decided to become a police officer. We will continue our conversation about bouncing back from sexual assault when we come right back. Welcome back. We were talking about bouncing back from sexual assault. So we were talking about your decision earlier in the show as to why you decided to become a police officer, but we're waiting now for you to share that reason. Your decision to become a police officer was?
Because when I was growing up, I didn't have the, nobody taught me how to have rules. They didn't teach me anything about family as having something to be a part of. So I was looking to be a part of something bigger, a bigger change. And it had a lot to do with where my dad was and where I was growing up and seeing everything that I had dealt with as a kid. I was like, okay, well, how can I be a part of the change for the entire community and not just for me?
So you decided to go into the police academy, become a police officer, and then what happened? First of all, did you find the rules and did you find what you were looking for there for a while?
For a little bit, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. For the most part, yes. I loved it. I love the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the camaraderie that you have, the connection to feeling like you're a part of making a difference in some way, shape, or form.
So you felt like, okay, I've got this.
I got this.
I overcame my mom, my dad, my childhood. I made some good choices. I got this.
Yes.
And here you are, you're there, and what happened?
And then in 2006, I get sexually assaulted by a superior officer.
So 2006, you get assaulted, and you just probably said, I'm done.
That's exactly how I felt the moment I left that night. I cried my eyeballs out. And life at that moment felt like it shifted and ended for me. Like, as much as I've gone through in my life, I've never felt this feeling of.
It's that feeling that you get, I can only imagine, it's like you say to yourself, this is not what I ever anticipated my life to be. And how many of us say that I think more of us say it on a regular basis than not. We say, how did we end up here? I know I do it sometimes, but
this was different.
This was different.
This was so different.
This was different. You were done.
Yeah.
So you went home.
And I had to tell my husband, which I couldn't even imagine, having to go home and explain to him what had happened that evening. It was horrible.
So, and your husband wrapped his arms around you.
Yeah, and said it'll be okay. I mean, was he angry? Yeah. Did he not know what to do? No, he didn't. We've never gone through this. We've been through a lot together and overcame a lot together, but this was something completely out of our book of norm.
There's no book,
No,
right?
there's no book for this. This is right out the window. Yeah.
So, I'm taking it we know you no longer work there.
I do not.
Okay. So you come home, you tell your husband, you report it.
I didn't report it until 2008. And that was probably, in the meantime, in between all of that, it was suffering from PTSD, going through severe depression. And I had a 2-year-old at that time, in 2006. So here I am, a mother of 2 boys. My dad gets diagnosed with cancer. I was injured in the meantime of that same year. So it was like all of this stuff you're dealing with. I'm dealing with an injury. I'm dealing with a sexual assault. I got a dad who's dying of cancer. And I'm taking care of a family.
And you have a dad who's dying of cancer, and I'm sure we could do a whole story just on your mixed emotions about your dad. I mean,
Right.
I'm sure there's unresolved issues that we have, because we all
Sure.
deal with unresolved issues that are from our childhood. It's just, unfortunately, it's the
Yeah.
nature of the beast. So you report it. Now tell us about the time when you were in bed, couldn't get yourself out, and then how do you get the strength to say, that's it, I'm getting out of this bed?
It was the day that I decided to make that decision, and I asked my husband, I said, how would you feel if I were to report this? And he said, you know what, whatever you need. And he's like, I'll be there for you. Okay, great. That to me was enough to get me over that edge. And
He said, I'll be there for you.
I'll be there for you. That's all I needed. I needed to know I was safe. Somebody had my back. Because when I left, there was nobody in my job at that time to be there for me. They left me
And how
off the
important
sidelines.
and how important is that?
It's like your family turned your back, and it's horrible.
And now your husband said, I'll be there for you.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's just the I. Whatever follows the I. I'll be there for you.
Yeah.
I love you. I appreciate you. It's always what follows the I that really hits your heart.
Exactly.
So your husband said, I'll be there for you. But but there was a time that you were in bed, you were so depressed. I want to know, share with us, how did you get to stand up and say that? What process did you have to go through?
I grew up living this life, and I knew as a kid I would never be a victim. And that was, for me, important. It was important to who I was, to always survive. So I was at this stage in 2006, 2008, I was living a victim mentality. Woe was me, poor me, so be it. 2008, when I made that decision to make that report, it was the point for me where I was like, I'm done. I'm done laying in this bed. I want to be here and live life and live life to its fullest. This is not the end all for me.
You were done being a victim.
Exactly.
And that's so key. And I think that's one of the things I like to talk about is changing your story.
Yeah.
You had a choice. You could have easily said, woe is me, I'm done, I'm going to raise these kids as best as I possibly can, lackluster or whatever. But then you were like, no way, I'm done being a victim. So we all have the opportunity to change our story.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to remember that. And you changed your story.
Turning the page and taking a new page out of the story, picking up the pen and rewriting your next destiny and where you're going to go. Absolutely.
Wow. I mean, you've just been through so much and you're so strong. So you turned all this lifelong adversity into Empower, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Empower and what you do.
So what I found through healing was the power of storytelling. This was like pre-Me Too. This was, how are we going to be able to share that I'm not alone in this, and being able to say, like, I've overcome depression, I've overcome this, and sharing our stories makes us feel like we're a part of a community. And that's what I've always wanted. I wanted a community, a network of inspiring people to latch on to build up each other up rather than tearing each other down. I dealt with that through everything that I went through in the police department. Empower Her Voice then evolved into something even greater, of teaching people how that they can go out now and share their story with their words, because their words are even bigger off of paper, off the book.
So many things we could talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, sharing your story is so important, right? I mean,
Yes.
and I think being honest about
Yes.
your story and being authentic about your story. And in today's world, let's face it, I think the more authentic you are, the more real you are, and the more you're like, hey, I grew up this way, it makes you so real, and people resonate with you, and
Yes.
they come to you and they want to share their story. So, and then your book also shares your story, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And then you coach people.
I do.
So what is it, what is it you would say to someone who's watching the show right now and is saying, wow, I can't do that. I don't have the strength that she has. Look at her, she looks great. She's got this. What would you say to someone that's watching right now and says, I don't have this, I don't have the capacity to do this? What would you say? What would you tell them?
You do.
Where does it come from?
A deeper feeling, like that's tiny spark. It's this tiny spark, and a tiny spark of hope for themselves. They have to just latch onto that. It's an inner knowing that even though this outside and I look all great, right? But the inside is the reality of, I can be a complete mess tomorrow. It just is the way of the world.
Well, I think that's interesting that you said it's that inner. So it's interesting you call it a spark. It's that like inner spark. It's that inner knowing. It's that intuition that says, I want to change my life.
More.
And then at any point in time, I think it's really important that people remember that they can change your life. So today, how is your family doing today? Where are you with your family? Like, how did you come to terms with that? Because I think, to be honest with you, there's many people watching the show that probably have unresolved issues with their siblings or their parents or whatever,
Sure.
and they're like, no, I'm not doing it. How'd you do that?
For me, it was about forgiveness. Forgiveness for me first. I have to forgive myself and then forgive the other people.
So when you say forgive yourself, that's interesting. Forgive yourself, but it's really your parents. Okay, it's really your parents that
Right.
that did this. I would say not did this to you, but they did the best that they could do. I always say
Exactly.
our parents do the best that they could do at the time, what they knew how to give us. They have obviously your parents didn't give you rules. They didn't have the skill set to which give you
Right.
rules. But forgiveness, and you had to forgive yourself. That's an interesting point. How does someone go about and forgive themselves? Is that long, hard?
Is it easy?
Is it easy?
No, it's not. It's not easy, because you have to be completely honest with yourself and completely real, and forgive yourself in the part that you played in, because every reaction has an action, and I'm part of that equation. So I had to take part of ownership of whatever happened in life. So I could sit there and be mad, but what am I being really mad at? Being mad at my parents because they did what they could do? Compassion.
I love that. For every reaction has an action, and the action is all about us. Well, thank you so much. My thanks to my guest, Christa Hayburn, for sharing her experience and her insight. As we heard today, too often we watch our lives from the sidelines, silent. Many of us struggle to move on from traumatic experience in our past and find ourselves paralyzed with fear. We feel that our dreams died long ago and that life couldn't be more different than from what we imagined. It's so, so very important that you all remember that you're not alone. And you can and you will, and you can overcome your fears, your self-doubt, and truly bounce back to the person that you long to be and see your reflection in the mirror. Stand there proudly and say, I love you. I love the person that I am, and I got this. Once again, I'm Lisa Vienne, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Bouncing Back. Hello, I'm Lisa Vienne, and welcome to Bouncing Back.
God makes a way.
Be honest and communicate.
Be your authentic self.
That's so critical.